as the Vatican acknowledges that the Pope has been buried in St. Maria Maggiore in a private ceremony, the Pope was buried around about 4 o'clock local time. The Donald Trump has broken his silence following his brief and symbolically charged meeting with President Zelensky in the Vatican in St. Peter's Basilica, both of them sitting on chairs opposite each other, a meeting that took place mere hours or mere minutes before the funeral of Pope Francis under the solemn arches of St. Peter's. Posting on Truth Social, Mr. Trump has now said there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas. Now, it was very interesting that first of all, he's acknowledging that Putin is attacking civilians, and secondly, he's pointing out that there is no purpose to this. And he's referencing the attacks on Kyiv earlier this week, in which 12 people lost their lives and so many more were injured. And he went on, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Well, I don't know what he means by banking. Maybe he's got the consonant wrong. In a striking departure from Trump's previously equivocal tone on Russia and Putin, and a statement that leaves as many questions as it answers, I think Trump may have turned the page and Zelensky may have persuaded him that he's been a fool. That is a major achievement. A major achievement. And, one of the... I'm very firm about what I think is wrong and what I think is right, but I equally am very firm that I think everybody is capable of the good. Even Putin, even from his fridge under the Kremlin. Even Putin, everyone is capable of good. Even after death, everyone is capable of good. Ultimately, I believe, as my tutor in Oxford believed, Bishop Callistos, that there is a potential for universal salvation. That means even the most wretched tyrants like Putin, even the most stubborn individuals like Netanyahu can be brought to the good. Because in the end, the bad, evil, is of no consequence. It is a void. It is an absence. It is an absence of the good, an absence of creation, an absence of God, an absence of purpose, an absence of creation. It is anti-creation. It is anti-matter. And eventually, people recognize it. The good is reciprocity. The good is community. Evil is isolation. Evil is solidarity. Evil is solipsism. Evil is recognizing in the end that you have no friends. Evil is no friends Netanyahu. Evil is no friends Putin. And in the end, you have to face that fact. The meeting with Trump and Zelensky lasted about 15 minutes, apparently. It appeared almost medieval in its intimacy. Two leaders, no entourage, no officials crowding the scene, simply a single photograph, or two photographs, I think, one from the side, one from the back, released by the Ukrainian Presidential Press Service, showing them deep in conversation beneath the soaring ceilings of Catholicism's most iconic cathedral. Zelensky's team swiftly described the encounter as one that has potential to become historic. Though one must note the careful language, potential, not assurance. But potential is good. In the context, today's developments come in the middle of a complicated, almost tortured, US-led effort to broker a ceasefire and a peace between Russia and Ukraine, negotiations which have lately descended into farce and manipulation. Trump's earlier message, sent after his arrival in Rome, claimed that a deal is very close and urged both sides to meet at the very highest levels to finish it off. Or to finish off Zelensky. Optimistic, perhaps, but hardly grounded in the grim realities emerging from the battlefield or the negotiating tables. More troublingly, Vladimir Putin's latest demands reportedly include territorial concessions that Ukraine will concede to Russia the regions that Russia has not even occupied. A proposition akin, as one commentator memorably put it in this week, to Britain insisting on reoccupying New South Wales. And this is something that I've often wondered about. If Russia has made a legal proclamation in its own country, as it did, that Zaporizhia, Kherson, and so on are Russian territories, at what point, how much of that territory do they actually believe is theirs? Zelensky, for his part, remains consistent. Freezing the front lines and surrendering Crimea are and will remain deal breakers. And I think he's right. Not only because you can't surrender land which is already yours, which was always yours, which has been taken by an aggressor, and secondly, because Putin wouldn't even be satisfied with that, as he now demonstrates. What makes Trump's new rhetoric so notable is the departure from his earlier, more dismissive stance. Recall that only a few weeks ago he'd echoed Kremlin talking points suggesting Ukraine bore partial blame for the war's continuation. Now, today, he accuses Putin of bad faith and floats the idea of harsher financial penalties, banking or secondary sanctions. A far cry from his earlier calls for a rapprochement. What explains this shift? Partly, one suspects Trump is responding to political optics. His February Oval Office clash with Zelensky, a debacle in which he curtly told the Ukrainian president he didn't have the cards to repel Russia's invasion, remains fresh in public memory. At the time, Trump appeared almost disdainful of Ukraine's plight. Now, facing mounting criticism from both Republicans and Democrats, and watching Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly threaten to abandon the ceasefire talks unless compromises are reached, Trump may be recalibrating his stance to reclaim the narrative. Nevertheless, we should be cautious in whatever interpretation is placed on Trump's comments and his actions. Trump's call for banking or secondary sanctions, whatever that somewhat cryptic phrasing may imply, lacks clear mechanisms or timelines. It is, in the end, another declarative flourish on social media rather than concrete diplomatic strategy, but it suggests he has listened to Zelensky, and that is an achievement. Trump's alpha male approach often doesn't listen. Meanwhile, the picture of Zelensky also conferring separately with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron hints at a wider diplomatic dance into which Trump was invited. Zelensky is triangulating between an impatient United States, a cautious Europe, and an unpredictable Kremlin. One is left wondering whether the real deal here is being brokered by statesmen or merely by the passage of time and the slow erosion of Ukraine's position on the battlefield. Trump's latest comments mark an evolution, or perhaps more accurately, a contortion in his approach to Russia and Ukraine. His instincts remain transactional, his tone theatrical, his grasp of the underlying issues as ever somewhat loose, malleable. Yet today's intervention suggests at least a grudging recognition that Vladimir Putin may not, after all, be the reliable negotiating partner that Trump once hoped for. In the shadow of St. Peter's, a cathedral that has seen it all, amid mourning for the pontiff who symbolized dialogue and peace, one could almost discern a flicker of realpolitik breaking through the theatrical maneuvers in Trump's brain. The question, however, remains is it too late? And I hope not. I hope not.